Live.
Yo, yo, yo. Time to get back at it. Back. What's whizzing my witches? What's witching my wizards? Time for Harry Potter. Let's get Expelliarmusing.
I'm whizzing.
Yeah, so today we're gonna finally start our new sort of format with these episodes where the first part is gonna be us kind of walking through the general plot and characters for how the story unfolds, and then part two is going to be more of our like takeaways of the story. So that's kind of more of the meat of what we want to get to, I guess you could say, is the second part. So we're going to try to start to section these off in part one and part two, with the intention that if you have listened to or if you've watched whatever the content is, then you can skip part one and just jump to part two. So we can save you time and energy. Obviously, if you want to listen to part one, absolutely you can if you need a refresher. But we don't want to waste your time and want to have valuable conversations. That's
well,
the goal.
Yeah, it should be noted that we've recorded now several episodes, if not just over a dozen episodes we haven't released, because we either ramble too much trying to just recap something that everyone is familiar with, like Harry Potter, or we just get too bogged down, we forget details, and it's better to separate the discussion of that away from generic plottings, because as important as plot is for a lot of art, sometimes when you're just talking about books, and we haven't talked about too many books yet, it's better to separate that than to dive right in and start talking about themes, artistic intent. In this case of Harry Potter, a gigantic franchise, so it's better to separate everything away from the story, and then we can touch back on that later.
It's kind of like an English class when you didn't read the book and you're looking for the answers for the test for theme, but then all it's telling you is summary, and you're like, I don't want any of this. I just want what the theme and everything and the meaning of the work as a whole, the wow. That's all I want.
Wow?
Yeah, it's a term that is used in
money, wow.
MOWAW, meaning of work as a whole. It's a term in English class.
Well,
time for Harry Potter.
Well, before we dive in here, what do you think the wow is of Harry Potter?
That's in part two.
Well, we could start there and then get in.
Just throwing the plan out the window within the first few minutes. Jesus. What the hell? I thought we said we weren't doing this. No, the goal is that the conversation leads us to that. Anyway, I'm a real boy, Hagrid.
No, there's no Pinocchio allusions, even though Pinocchio and Harry Potter are both coming-of-age stories.
They're both made of wood.
There are a lot of allusions to wood in the Harry Potter books, some of which are disturbingly sexual. So thanks for that, J.K. Rowling.
Definitely some homoeroticism at times.
Oh.
Anyway, Harry Potter starts with the first book, depending on where you're reading it or the copy you get, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. This brings up a lot of nostalgia for a lot of people, depending on when they read it. I know it does for both you and I, because as we were growing up, the books were coming out. So it kind of like matched up with how we were, learning and growing. So yeah, Harry is a real boy, and he gets contacted by this special wizarding world. What's going on with your eyebrows?
Well, the story begins with Harry Potter's parents being murdered in good old Disney fashion. So
I
Harry
was
grows
gonna
up
get
an
to that.
orphan. You skipped over it talking about wizards and shit. It starts with his parents being killed before we get to the Harry, you're a lizard.
Yeah, well, they're wizards and they're killed. That's what the next sentence out of my mouth was. They're killed. Anyway, they're killed by the big bad, he who shall not be named,
Yeah,
the Dark
the
Lord.
there's really I tried to break it out. The story of a whole of the books of Harry Potter kind of has a very natural prologue, beginning, middle, and an epilogue, where the prologue is basically everything before Harry is a wizard,
Hmm.
which is just Voldemort, the evilest wizard ever, kills Harry's parents and tries to kill Harry because of some obscure prophecy that they don't reveal until later in the books. And then the beginning of the story is really the first three books where Harry is still like kind of just a kid, not really an adolescent, so to speak, or a tween. The middle books are like book four, five, and six, which are definitely where like I think the meat of Harry's growth comes from, and the main parts of some of the more interesting elements of both Harry and his friends, some of the adventures that they go on. And then the end is basically just the last book, which is like all falling action. There's no rising action. And then the epilogue is just like the stupid happily ever after they throw in at the end of the seventh book.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know how detailed you want to get with the summaries of each book. Obviously, we should start with the Philosopher's Stone or the Sorcerer's Stone for all you dumb Americans.
Um, can give like very, very quick synopsis of each. Harry Harry lives a normal life with muggles who don't have magic. He is living with his aunt and their dastardly child Dudley and fat, stupid uncle Vernon. And yeah, it's basically revealed that Harry is a wizard because they go to a zoo and he releases a snake magically.
He
He
makes the
like
glass
causes the
disappear,
glass to vanish, and
then
yeah,
reappear.
yeah. Anyway, so then he ends up uh like they tried to they the Wizarding World tries to contact him about Hogwarts, and then his caretakers, his aunt and uncle, are like freaked out by it, so they like try to like go to the summer home or something so that they can't be found, and then Big Bad Hagrid shows up and is like, no, he's going there because he needs to go there. So then he goes there.
They keep sending magical letters to his house, and when they keep ripping the letters up, they send more letters to the point where then there's like thousands of letters coming through the chimney. And I think
Mhm.
there's like hundreds of owls around the house.
Yep, like a flock of seagulls, but they're owls.
Yeah, so they go to their like cottage, like you said, at a lake or something, and then yeah, you get the fellow behind you, Hagrid shows up and basically commits a number of crimes and kidnaps Harry,
Yep.
breaking and entering, multiple assaults, verbally abuses them, which they do. To be clear, the Dursleys deserve every bad thing that happens to them. Um, they're terrible people.
Yeah, and then so he takes him to the Wizarding World. I believe they do go to Diagon Alley to like acquire stuff for his first year.
Yeah, because they have to meet a bunch of characters still, and they have to give him his wand, which he gets from another character, and
And he sees a nice broom and is like, "Hey, that's a nice broom. I'd really like to do that thing on the broom, because Quidditch is a sport in this world." Um, Turns out Harry's really good at that. Um,
Harry's a bit of a Mary Sue, unfortunately.
a Mary Sue.
Yeah, classic term used very frequently in the discourse these days, which is
where he
a
can do
character,
everything.
yeah, without any training prerequisites. Typically, if you can't tell by the name, it's applied to female characters, but that's just an anger from incels and
Is it Mary Sue because it's two first names, so they can like do all the first person things? Is that? Uh,
I don't know the origin of the term, but it is certainly supposed to be about female characters exclusively. Because when male characters can do it, it's just, of course, men can do everything.
oh boy! But then when it's a woman, it's like, well, I take exception to that. So she's a real Mary Sue.
Yeah, it's sort of used as an excuse to put down a piece of work because the female protagonist is too good at things.
It's
Because,
unrealistic that a woman would be able to do many things or even
yeah,
one thing well.
it's like
Got
maybe
it.
the best example of toxic patriarchy where the
Hilarious.
expectation is that men shouldn't have to work hard to get power, but women who don't have to work hard to get power are evil.
They're evil because they can't be good at things, so therefore
Mhm.
they're evil when they are good at things.
Yeah. That being said, Harry
Bringing it
Potter,
back to
yeah,
witches. Yeah.
yes,
So,
lots of
uh,
those in these books, lots of witches. Just saying.
yeah,
I
there's some funny racist terms like mudblood, which a witch is called that because she's half muggle, half wizard.
mhm.
Hermione. So Harry meets Ron and Hermione, the two main secondary characters, you could say, in this. So the trio of them will continue to learn and grow with one another throughout the remaining stories.
Well, it takes like half of the book before Harry and Ron like Hermione.
Right, because she's a know-it-all, stuck up, um,
She
pretentious.
she is smarter than every character we meet through the entire series, and
Yes,
smarter than most of the adults.
I was giving adjectives. I was giving adjectives from their perspective, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, oh boy. Okay, there's also this continual bit which we will keep touching upon throughout all of the books where the defense against the dark arts teacher keeps switching every single year. This year's installment is Professor Quirrell, who has a really large, mysterious purple turban, which yeah, they keep focusing on that turban. I wonder what's going on with that turban, if it's religious or what's going on with that turban.
Yeah, we did just skip a handful of things.
I'm going back to them. There's a big bad troll that gets released.
Oh, yeah, it's just skipping ahead more.
I said I didn't want to spend a lot of time on the books.
Uh,
Just wanted to do the broad strokes, but I guess you want to outline everything.
no, I wouldn't outline everything, just the basic elements of like the minutia of the world that they touch upon in every single book.
Go ahead.
Like there are bits of world building that are inherently important to the story.
And also, no pun intended, but quite magical, which
Yeah,
is one of the endearing parts of these stories. Like, and one of the mystiques as far as like why people love these stories so much. The world building aspect is great.
yeah, because they introduce Hogwarts as this endlessly large, seemingly like universe-like entity onto itself, a castle that is just infinite in size internally. Like
Hmm.
it, they never. I don't remember if they even specify how tall it is, but there's like endless dungeons and like it has a very magnificent feel to it, which is helpful for Harry, who's just like a 10-year-old or 11-year-old kid in the first book, but that never really goes away too much throughout the rest of them. The only other elements of magic that they use, I mean, there's tons of details that we don't need to get into, but they introduce tons of the adult characters that will come back, which are all of the teachers of other subjects. Um, That's why the only thing I wanted to point out is that like all the other teachers for every other subject stay the same in every book. Like there's a potions guy, there's botanicals, there's predicting the future. Half of that stuff just never even comes up as being important. But uh, as you pointed out, the basically the fighting class, which is the defense against the dark arts, which is just how to kill people with the gun that I've been given at age 11. Somehow they just can't keep the gun trainer around because every year we didn't even talk about Dumbledore yet, who we will be getting into. Dumbledore is like the oldest, wisest wizard, but as the books go on, you slowly learn that he's actually the second evilest wizard in history, and B, completely incompetent because he's the one responsible for hiring all of these dangerous criminals to be the defense against the dark arts teacher.
How dare you slander Albus's name? I'm actually an Albus apologist, you monster. Stop doing that.
Well, I guess we'll get to that when we get to the analysis part. Albus is pictured behind me here if you're looking at the video. So yeah, anyway, you were talking about a troll and some bathrooms. Just wanted to give a brief back up a little bit.
Yeah, that's fine. There are lots of teachers there, and a troll is released. There's also 4 houses. Gryffindor, which is the bigliest, bravest. Slytherin, which is the ground slithers.
It's just for scumbags, ambitious bad people.
If you
Ambitious
like
good
to-
people go to Gryffindor, and
if
ambitious
you-
bad people go to the snake.
Yeah, if you think quickly and like to cut corners because your brain moves too fast and you're slimy and want to make dark trades, then you go to Slytherin. If you are ambitious and kind of smart, then you go to Ravenclaw. And if you're just someone that we don't know what to do with, then you just go to Hufflepuff.
Yeah, Hufflepuff's where most people go.
Most people in our world would be Puffins. That's for sure. And then Ravenclaw, yeah, is kind of an alternative to Gryffindor, but it's very clear that Gryffindor is the bigliest best.
No, Ravenclaw is just for smart people. Gryffindor is just for people who crave power but only to do good.
Yes.
And Slytherin is crave power but only do bad.
Mm-hmm.
And Hufflepuff is where they just throw all the generic kids who have magic powers but aren't good at using them.
Right.
Because are we really even introduced to a single Hufflepuff character who's exceptional throughout any of the books?
There's Cho Chang. I think she might be Ravenclaw, actually.
Do they even introduce a single one that's...
No.
I should point out, Cho Chang also doesn't do anything exceptional in the books, other than have a racist name.
Yeah, we'll get there to the name that you have named her, because her name could be anything that is just J.K. Rowling trying to name a character with an East Asian name. Yeah, because that's her attempt.
We'll get to J.K. Rowling later.
So yeah, there's a troll that's released, and it's wreaking havoc, and they have to like subdue it. Yeah, and no one really knows like why it was released. It's around Christmas time, and yeah, this is kind of what triggers, or this is like the MacGuffin that brings the trio together, if you will, of Ron, Harry, and Hermione. After this one, they're studying a bunch, and then yeah, Harry plays Quidditch, and he's exceptionally good at it. He's the seeker for the team.
What's Quidditch?
Quidditch is where you fly around on brooms, and it's like soccer and rugby, but it's on brooms. And there are 3 hoops at either end, and you try to put the MacGuffin through one of the hoops. And then there's a goalie who like can catch the balls before they go through the hoops. And then there's a magical flying thing that's gold, and that's called the snitch. but it can only stay within the grounds of the game, even though it just flies around wherever the hell it wants.
It
And
also frequently just leaves the grounds.
can just go into like
The
can go
best
to
part of
outer
the game
space. It
is
can go
definitely
wherever it
just
wants.
the dudes with there's literally a position in the game where you just have a bat and your goal is to just hit around a ball that isn't used for points to hurt other people.
And vaguely maybe use it to you can't like swing it at people, but maybe you can turn it and use the other end and like punch people with it. Yeah.
The
There's
goal is to
some
hit
fun.
baseball, like soft balls at wizards.
Yes. But the softballs also are magical, maybe. That's
Yeah.
how they're
The
kept in the
bludgers.
air.
Yeah, exactly. And they're
Um
tampered with in every single book. Someone tampers with the Quidditch. Every
yeah.
single book.
The Quidditch games alone are really lit, honestly.
Mainly because yeah.
It's a very fun sort of breeding ground from a story perspective for just like absolute chaos and mayhem to happen. Um, I believe in the first one, right? It no, it's in the second one. Never mind, I'm jumping ahead.
No, in the first one, Harry is like he's like cursed in the air and he's having trouble staying on his broom. And
right.
everybody thinks Snape
It's
is
Snape.
cursing him, so they
Okay.
light Snape on fire.
Yeah, Hermione does that, right? She sneaks up. I was gonna say that, but somehow I thought that was in the second one. But no,
No, in the second one, there's
else. We'll get there. We'll get there.
We're going slow here. We gotta get to Voldemort.
You're the one that slowed things down.
You didn't explain what the Sorting Hat was.
The purple turban man has been hiding Voldemort on the back part of his head. And yeah, that's the book.
There's a magic. There's
go back to the Sorting Hat.
No, we're not going that far back. The Sorting Hat literally doesn't matter right now. We can get to that later.
There's a magical hat that tells people which silly house they belong in.
Yeah, the hat like it reads their intentions. They never make it clear, but later in the books it gets even worse. But basically the magic hat can read your mind and your future and then tell you if you're gonna be evil or good. And it's one of those like determinism things where it's like, well, did the hat make them evil or were they evil and the hat knew? Because the hat can
a Sorting Hat online where you like plug in your name, your race, and like your identifier, like your pronouns, and then it just spits out you're a TERF.
Oh. There are definitely a lot of online things that are like sort yourself into a Harry Potter house, but that would be funny if you get through like the 30 questions and at the end it's like, oof, sorry, you're a TERF. You can't go to no Hogwarts for you.
It's like, oof, you're a bundle of sticks. Sorry. Because J.K. Rowling would definitely code that in there. Anyway, moving on to the end of the story. There's a secret tower that's being guarded by a dog with three heads, and the dog with three heads is Hagrid's. Yeah, and they put it to sleep. Then they sneak down. There are several trials that they must overcome. To be clear, they being Harry, Ron, and Hermione. I believe one is like a potions riddle. If you choose the wrong potion or mix them wrong, you will be poisoned. Another one is the chess match.
Every professor that they've encountered is given a task to help guard the Philosopher's Stone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
it makes no sense, but it's fun if you don't think about it.
Yeah, like the fact that the Philosopher's Stone is kept like at this school, you mean, or that the teachers would be in charge of like safeguarding it?
The whole thing, like keeping it where they keep it, the order in which the obstacles are placed, Also, the fact that not every teacher even places an obstacle. It's just the teachers we've met in this book. Because we
Right,
find out
right.
later there are more teachers, but because, this
Yeah,
book was
where's
just,
Trelawney's task? Like
well,
where's the giant?
hers is actually the first task of all, because you have to decide to go there. And if you do that, then you've beaten Trelawney.
There should be some tea leaf business or something, or some astrology shit.
Well,
Uh,
Trelawney, the way Trelawney stops you is if you decide not to go, then she won because she predicted no one would go to try to steal the stone.
so they beat the potions, and then and then they have a large like chess match where Ron volunteers to be a chess piece and gets wrecked
Yeah, they're
by.
all chess pieces.
Oh, right. They are all chess pieces, but Ron sacks himself
Mhm.
um by moving onto a square, and it's pretty cool because each of the chess pieces like comes to life and they're made of like marble or stone, and they like absolutely like murder the shit out of each other when they take one another. And so Ron gets messed up when he is taken.
Yeah,
Um,
it's an amazing bit in the books where Ron is like the dumbest person in every room he's in, but is inexplicably good at a game of strategy,
yeah,
thus proving once and for all that you don't need to be smart to be good at strategy games.
you just need to have red hair. And
Yeah.
so then they move past that task. I don't remember what the other trials and
There's a
tribulations
plant
are.
task. There's one where he just has to get on a broom and catch like a key. There's like a
Yeah,
snitch key.
the
Uh,
plant one is like the thorns or vines that are like
it's like the
moving.
very first one after
Yeah.
the dog. They just
Yes.
have to not move. There's like
And
vines that constrict you, but if you just don't struggle, you just fall through.
so through the hero's journey, they overcome those trials, and then they're faced with a delusional man
Only Harry gets there. The other two are like stuck behind because of the stuff.
who smells vaguely like garlic, and then he takes his turban off and he's got a face on the back of his head, and that's the big bad man, Voldemort. And he wants the Philosopher's Stone and nearly gets it too, if not for those meddling kids.
Yeah, Harry literally murders a man at age 11
Yep.
by accident, but kind of on purpose.
Yep. So they battle one another,
Well,
and
battle.
they're they're battling, and then he almost dies, and Dumbledore shows up.
Like,
You could say battling.
I'm pretty sure in the book Quirrell just touches him and then his hands burn and then Harry falls asleep, like passes out.
A
In the
true
books, it's
battle.
in the movies, Harry just straight up murders him. Like when Harry realizes that him touching him hurts him, he puts his hands on his face and he dies.
uh, yes.
And
Hmm.
then we get to the formulaic aspect of the books, which is where every book ends with Harry being in the like hospital part of Hogwarts, and Dumbledore comes in and just exposition dumps a bunch of information that he should have given Harry at the beginning of the book, but it's not good storytelling to give your reader all the information, so you have to save it for the end. So he explains all this stupid shit about giving him an invisibility cloak that he used the whole book. And he says that the Quirrell died because he was greedy. But if you have a good, it goes back to the thing about good versus bad, where Harry's inherently good and Quirrell was inherently bad. So Harry deserved to have the rock that keeps you alive for the Philosopher's Rock, I think it's called. Keeps you alive forever if you touch it. So since Harry was born a good person, he gets the rock, and Quirrell was born a bad person, so he dies when he tries to get the rock.
And he also contained another bad person as well, so I'm sure that
He
didn't help.
he did let a snake demon live on the back of his head.
Hmm. So yeah,
Oh, and there's
hooray.
also a house cup. We like every one of the teams gets points throughout the year, but at the end of every book, the same thing happens where Gryffindor is losing the like point accumulation, and then one of the teachers, usually Dumbledore, just gives Harry Potter and his friends thousands of points until they win.
Yeah, that's a really funny bit that they do every single time. Like, oh, well, you defeated Professor Quirrell, so here's 400 points. And it's like 5 points more than they needed to win the thing. And they're like, oh, darn. And the final tally is Slytherin had 395 and Gryffindor finished with 400. Well, so the next book, we gotta move through these a bit faster.
Well, the first one sets up a lot of the world. You can get through the rest of them in like literally 3 sentences.
You're not wrong. Okay, second one, Chamber of Spoopy Secrets. There's a flying car, a whomping willow, and a big chamber with a snake in it.
Yeah, did we ever even explain how Harry got to Hogwarts? That he had to like go through a magic
No,
brick wall at a train station?
he doesn't use that in the first book. Hagrid just takes him there.
That's not true.
I could be wrong about that, but
No, Hagrid takes him to the crossing. They're introduced to the crossing in the first book. They set it up so that in the
platform 9
second book,
3/4.
yes,
Oh yeah, they are.
that's the
Yeah,
only
that's right.
reason
He does
why
take
in
him
the
there.
second book he can't get through the brick wall and he has
It
to take
doesn't
the
let him.
car. Yeah, Harry meets, for some reason, Harry has to, instead of just living in the castle over the summer, which would be normal, and they explain why later. Harry has to go live with his abusive aunt and uncle again, who just abuse him over the summer. And then he meets an elf named Dobby, who is both comic relief and pure evil. So Dobby tortures Harry for like 2 days or something for no reason.
How dare you call him evil? He's a slave.
He's an evil teleporting little person slave elf. Yes, correct.
Creature.
Also evil. Harry gets locked in his room, but then uses magic to contact. Actually, he doesn't even contact. Ron shows up in a flying car and they rescue Harry, and then Harry lives with the Weasleys, who are just like a huge family of red-haired maniacs.
You're getting way too bogged down in these details there, bud.
Harry and Ron end up having to take the flying car to school because they can't get on the train they normally take. And when they fly the car to the school, they get attacked by a living tree, which beats up the car and almost kills Harry and Ron. Harry and Ron get chewed out, but actually don't get in any trouble.
A number of people / creatures are found petrified in the hallways of the school. Like the cat, Mr. Filch's cat, Mrs. Norris, is petrified.
Mm-hmm. Which is just a villain, so it's a good thing.
The cat,
Mr. Filch and Mrs. Norris are just bad. They're evil. They're somehow allowed to just be at the school, but
all hall monitors and janitors are evil, apparently.
That is
especially when a cat is named with Mr. or Mrs. in front of it.
Yeah, Mrs. Norris is like a sentient cat, and Mr. Filch is just a man who understands magic but can't use it. And they have a name for that too. It's like Scrub or something.
Squib.
Squib.
I will never forget that word. Yeah, squib.
Scrub.
This brings one of the more comical characters, and by comical I mean like a cartoon character. Gilderoy Lockhart is in this story.
He's like a famous hero.
He's a Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher. At one moment, there's a Quidditch game, and one of the bludgers hits Harry, and he breaks his arm. So then, when he goes to the infirmary, Harry is tried to get mended up by Lockhart, who like turns his arm to jelly. Like it just turns to like rubber, basically.
Yeah, Lockhart is like the cameo. Every book just has like a cameo. And the
Hmm.
cameo in this one is him. He's a famous author and adventurer, who everyone thinks is a hero, but he's shown repeatedly to just be completely incompetent and bad at magic.
There is a bathroom with a ghost in it, uh, moaning Myrtle
Hmm.
that haunts the bathroom
And is really
and
perverted towards Harry and Ron.
really, really wants to do some things with them and has a diary. Um,
Hmm.
and the diary is shown to belong to Tom Riddle, who is Voldemort. And yeah, the diary claims that Hagrid is responsible for the bad things, and then Hermione is petrified. I believe at night as well. Things are put on lockdown, and then Dumbledore has to send Hagrid to Azkaban because of the attacks.
And Dumbledore's like just forced to leave.
Yeah. This also brings a great scene where Harry and Ron have to enter the Forbidden Forest, which shit we did not mention in the first book, but um, because there was that scene where it's like Mars is bright tonight, and they see like Dumbledore,
Well,
like yeah, or not Dumbledore, Voldemort feasting on like the blood of
a unicorn.
yeah. Anyway, they enter the Forbidden Forest and they encounter a whole bunch of spiders, like humongous, terrifying spiders.
Well, everything, it should be noted that in the books, everything is vaguely motivated by a plot, even if it's a contrivance that Rowling has set up just to get you to like an interesting bit of world building. In the
Yeah,
movies, they just do things because they want to get the good, like Disney ride in, but or Warner Brothers ride in rather. In the
yeah.
book, they go because Hagrid like just lies to the kids, and he's like, "Oh, the answer is in the forest." So they go and meet Hagrid's friend, who's just a big spider, and his friend is like, "I don't have any answers, but I'll eat you guys."
And then
Like Hagrid just lies. And
the car they crashed into the magical tree comes and saves them and whisks them away,
yeah,
while a bunch
thankfully,
of
there's a
huge
lot of like
spiders try to come and eat them.
half sentient magical objects, like the car, which is vaguely aware of who Ron and Harry are.
Yeah, so then it's revealed that Moaning Myrtle was a student that was killed by the basilisk, which is a giant snake that is roaming the halls at night. And then Ron's sister Ginny is taken into the Chamber of Secrets. Um, so then Harry and Ron discover the entrance to the Chamber of Secrets is within Myrtle's bathroom, and then they get Lockhart to go with them. And Lockhart basically crumbles as a person because he confesses that he is, extremely fraudulent. And then he tries to erase their memories. Um, but it's a good thing Ron's wand was damaged in the process, so I believe he just erases his own memories. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the reveal is that the only thing that Lockhart was ever good at was casting a memory erase spell. So he would follow like competent heroes around, wait for them to do a big good thing, and then erase their memory and then take the credit for it.
Yeah, and this is Rowling's chance then to get rid of Ron so that it's Harry facing off against the bad man again
Right,
because
because Ron
Ron
has to
feels
babysit the
inclined,
guy
yeah, inclined to take care of this bumbling buffoon.
since he no longer has a memory because he erased it with yeah, it's
So Harry shows up. There's a humongous snake, which is
big old
Nagini,
basilisk. No,
or Nagini is something different.
no, there's a
Yeah,
big
Nagini is different.
basilisk.
This
There's
is a basilisk.
yeah. Basilisk is
And
like a dog snake with poisonous teeth.
And Harry has some bad in him because he was cursed, so he has the gift of parcel tongue, so he can speak with snakes, which is why he could also hear the whispering in the hallways or the walls throughout the castle.
Whispering.
The basilisk.
We never mentioned that.
I just said that. I'm asserting it as we're moving, not wasting time here.
Harry kills Snake.
No.
Oh.
The basilisk plunges its teeth into him, and assumedly he dies. But then Dumbledore's Phoenix shows up and saves the day. Drops the sorting hat. Harry puts his hand into the sorting hat, gets the big bad sword of Godric Gryffindor, and then slays the snake. But he's poisoned by the venom. And then he's like, oh no, I'm gonna die.
Yeah, a visage of young Voldemort is in the book, the bad book.
Mm-hmm.
And the bad book somehow summoned the basilisk. Yeah, the bad diary, which possessed Ginny, Ron's younger sister, because Lucius Malfoy gave it to her, which is revealed at the very end. So they go, once again, the book ends with Harry doing the heroic thing all by himself with the help of a magic hat and a phoenix that cries on him to stop the poison.
That was what I was about to say, yeah.
Kills the snake, destroys the evil book with the actually, does he even destroy? Yeah, he destroys the book with the poison tooth from the snake basilisk.
Yes. And he is revived as a phoenix rising from ashes by the phoenix's tears. Mm-hmm. Because Harry is so lovely and beautiful that it cries over his death.
And then all the people who Harry wakes up in the hospital again, and then they dump a bunch of exposition on him about why the snake did what he did and all this yada yada stuff.
Gryffindor wins the House Cup again.
Yeah, they give a bunch of points to Harry for solving the thing. Like they're literally losing again, and Dumbledore's like, you just get a lot of points because you killed the big snake monster.
Killed the huge snake, yeah.
And saved the day. And then Lucius Malfoy shows up and tries to murder Harry. Like an adult bad man shows up and tries to kill Harry in the castle. But because of some slavery loophole,
with the elf giving an article of clothing.
Yeah, if you give the elves, who are all slaves, pieces of clothing, they become free. So Harry does that, and then Dobby
has given Dobby sock. Dobby is free.
Yeah, it's oh my. All right, I'm gonna need to pause here, and then we can hopefully blitz through these next few books.
All right, pause away.
We're back.
And we're back. Back with Prisoner of Azkaban. My personal favorite book. A lot of people's favorite book. This one involves Azkaban, which is guarded by magical, hooded, soul-sucking demons called Dementors, which are big and scary, basically like ring wraiths, essentially. I've been really trying not to mention all of the similarities between this and the Lord of the Rings, but yeah.
Yeah, and the whole like naming convention of characters and MacGuffins is all based off of Roman myths, Greek myths, Lord of the like other fantasy existing worlds. I
so
think the sum whole of Harry Potter doesn't feel like it feels very original on the whole, but every building block, it's like I think it's a David Lynch quote that's something like, you know, a handful of cliches is uninteresting, but 100 cliches is original. So it's like all
Okay.
these building blocks of like generic hero's journey stuff, generic fantasy stuff. It all works together to create a world that feels pretty original on the whole. And um, there's some legitimately interesting characters throughout the course of the books.
That makes me feel better about the book I'm writing then. Sirius Black is an interesting character who is the um, protagonist slash antagonist slash MacGuffin of the whole story, of this entire story. You follow, like, one of the reasons I love this one is because you follow Harry through the story, and it's almost like a mystery, essentially trying to figure out why Sirius Black wants to kill him, and then also like figuring out Sirius Black's past, which intertwines with his father's, which intertwines with Snape's, and then also now's the time to bring up this year's inclusion of the Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher, Remus Lupin, who also was friends with Harry's father and Sirius Black.
Right. So Sirius Black is in Azkaban, the evil prison guarded by Wraith demons, because he allegedly sold out Harry's parents to Voldemort, getting them killed.
Yes.
So the plot is that he escapes from the prison and then is trying to kill Harry.
And there's this great image on the magical newspaper that they have. The magical newspaper basically having like GIFs on it of like his face like screaming into the void, but it's like it's the headliner of the page. I believe this story has the night bus as well that he gets on, and yeah. Anyway, there's this other sort of town that's remotely close to Hogwarts called Hogsmeade. Hogsmeade, however you want to say it. And
Hogsmeade.
Like, students are afforded the ability to go there. I think if they're third years and up, I forget what the rule is.
If they're 13 and have permission from their parents.
Right, and there's some of the characters have problems with getting their guardian signature, or I
forget. Only Harry does.
Right.
Everybody else's parents are like, well, fuck it, you're already at the most dangerous place in the world. You might as well be able to leave to go to like a couple bars.
Yeah, to drink
that's all
butterbeer.
Hogsmeade is there's like some retail shops and some bars, and that's it.
Yeah, so they get wizarding drunk there.
Well, it should be noted that like the culture that's being sort of emulated in these books is British culture, and specifically like British boarding school culture. So like it's probably not unusual for 13-year-olds to be afforded some lax restrictions at boarding schools to go get drunk on the weekends.
I did want to wait to bring up that reflection, but yeah, like the whole like prefect thing, and there's a lot of homoeroticism, as we mentioned before, like woven in between the like the bullying, the students who are like leaders, but then also like dictating things, sort of like political dealings between students, which echoes British boarding schools.
A separate piece.
Yes. A separate piece, though, I believe, is American.
It is.
Yeah.
But it's the same exact thing. Like,
yeah, the bullying aspect, the difficulties of being there. Yeah. Exactly. So yeah, Hogsmeade is a fun place to be, and Harry's not allowed to go.
And he just goes anyway.
Yep. Just says, screw it, I'm gonna go there. Important.
He gets the MacGuffin map, and it shows him secret routes to use his invisible cloak to go there. And so he goes and gets drunk, invisible.
This is a perfect this is a perfect demonstration of the cliches sort of all adding up to something unique, because the map itself is pretty cool. Like that's not really a cliche. That's pretty novel, but the map basically shows where people are in live time. So like it'll show like a person and then their footsteps of where they're going with their like name next to it, which is pretty cool, right? And he sees, whose name does he see? Is it Peter Pettigrew's name with Ron, right?
He sees it wandering throughout the castle. I think he sees it with Ron maybe once or twice. I mean, the map is only the tip of the iceberg of where this whole thing goes off the rails if you think about it for more than a minute.
Yes.
Because
another aspect that I was going to mention that's critical to this is the Patronus charm, which they are learning to conjure from Remus Lupin. Basically, the Patronus is used to ward off. I mean, I don't know if it's specifically used to ward off Dementors or if you can also use it to ward off like evil in some way, but it's like
just supposed to ward off evil.
Yeah, but they use it to ward off Dementors, and there's this like creature that Lupin has that he lets out in order to use as a lesson, the Boggart, and it takes the shape of whatever the person is most afraid of. So obviously it manifests into a Dementor when Harry faces it.
Well, that is a critical part of the book. It's different in the movie, but in the book, Lupin just doesn't let Harry face off against it because he thinks it will be Voldemort.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, we can't scare the kids looking at this evil wizard guy. Meanwhile, they're just demons flying like outside the windows of their classroom, and Lupin's like, we wouldn't want to show them an evil wizard, but they just like.
Right, the Dementors are at Hogwarts to protect them against Sirius Black. Yeah, protect them there. What are you keeping out? It's more like, what are you keeping in? Yeah. So, yeah, there's this like really, really insane series of events that happens. I don't know where you want to start with it, but it involves the Whomping Willow, the Shrieking Shack, Scabbers, who is Peter Pettigrew, and then what?
We didn't explain who any of those people were yet.
All right, so I did. I mentioned that Scabbers is Peter Pettigrew, and Peter Pettigrew is friends with Lupin and Sirius Black and Harry's father.
So Scabbers is Ron's rat.
So the four of those guys were friends back in the day at Hogwarts. So the same school that they're going to now. And Pettigrew, I believe, was kind of like the odd man out of the group. Like he was vaguely bullied by the other three.
But that, I don't think that was a part of it at all.
Oh, then it was Snape that was completely bullied.
Yeah, they all hated Snape.
Yeah, Severus Snape.
Who we have not mentioned yet.
We did mention him, but we just mentioned that there was a potions teacher.
Well, we said he was a guy who cursed Harry on a broom, which wasn't even true.
Yeah. So throughout
this is not fine. An accurate portrayal.
It's fine. It's fine. We're just glossing over the details in order to get to the end. So yeah, Snape is a very important character, and he seems like a baddie, like throughout all of the books.
He's unusually cruel to Harry.
Yes. And you just don't know why, other than like this guy is assumedly just a bastard.
Well, he does just say from the first book onward, like, you're just like your father who was a bastard man.
Yes.
But every other character in the book is like, your dad was the greatest hero ever, Harry.
And so are you. And yeah. So Sirius Black is actually Harry's godfather. And he killed Pettigrew, assumedly, while betraying Harry's father to Voldemort. And then Harry, Ron, and Hermione were at Hagrid's hut, and I believe, they find Scabbers there, and they he puts him in his pocket, and they're like walking back to the castle, and the rat like bites him and tries to flee, and Ron is attacked by a really large black dog. And the dog drags Ron away into the secret tunnel, secret tunnel beneath the Whomping Willow to the Shrieking Shack, which is located in Hogsmeade. Yeah. At this point in time, Harry and Hermione reach the shack, but Lupin is following them. Because he saw them on Harry's map. Lupin disarms Harry, and then he basically explains to him why he thinks that Sirius is actually innocent. Yeah. Then it reveals that the rat is actually Peter Pettigrew, who's been like very creepily hiding with Ron just for years.
This is only the third of 9 major plot holes in this book.
Yeah.
That Ron's brothers who give Harry the map have been looking at a map and just seeing, who's this Peter Pettigrew guy whose name we've heard literally 1,000 times in every single paper, who's just sitting on Ron's lap for years?
Don't say that. Fred and George are focused on bigger things like pranks in their joke shop, and yeah.
And using the map every single minute of every day, except for to look at their brother.
And why would they check up on their brother? Yeah, so Harry is like, we should probably give Peter Pettigrew over to the Dementors. So then they're like walking back to the castle, but then the full moon comes out, and then Lupus turns into a werewolf. Unfortunately. Sirius Black then turns into the dog because he's an animagus. And like tries to fight off Lupin. So it's a battle of two friends, basically. Yeah, and then the Dementors like descend on them. This is like near the end of near the end of the story, but
this is not near the end.
There's the thing with Buckbeak as well.
This book is extremely convoluted at the end. It does like 9 reveals in a row.
So this is the time turner one.
Yes. So the whole point of all of this is that Harry eventually ends up passing out in the middle of the woods because a bunch of Dementors come and some flash of light saves him. So then we have to relive everything because when Harry wakes up in the hospital, which would be the normal end of the book, Dumbledore shows up and is like, yeah, you could just use like fucking time travel. We always had that option because it's revealed Hermione has time travel and she uses it to take extra classes, which has been hinted at through the book. So then they use time travel to go back in time, save a Griffin or Hippogriff or whatever.
That harmed Malfoy and that was sentenced to death that they executed.
Convolution. They save a Hippogriff, they go back in time, and Harry saves himself and Sirius Black from Dementors, and then they all are happy back in the...
Sirius rides Buckbeak off into the sunset.
Yeah, he rides the flying horse monster off, and then sends Harry a broom John.
Yes.
A faster broom, so Harry can be good at Quidditch.
The Nimbus 3000, or is this like the more improved one, the Firebolt or whatever? I think it's the Firebolt.
Many of them. And then yeah, that's the end. I don't even know if they talk about who wins the cup at the end of this one.
No, instead of that, they're like, Lupin, you gotta go because you're a werewolf. And then everyone forgets about the cup.
Right. So now we're on year 3 in a row where Dumbledore's hirings have been a cultist who had a snake demon on the back of his head, an evil man who erased the memories of heroes, and a werewolf.
Yeah.
0 for 3.
Let's see if he can change that narrative in the 4th book. Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. This book is also really lit. Yeah, this is a great one.
This is where the image behind me comes from.
If the 3rd one wasn't my favorite, it would probably be this one. Especially because of the beginning of this book, I would say. I know we kind of went off the rails when we tried to do this episode the last time when we talked about the Wizarding Cup, but like
we're already completely off the rails. Don't worry.
The Quidditch World Cup is so much fun to read about. There are just so many magical elements to it. Like picture the World Cup for soccer, but in Magicville, Magic Land, and they have these tents that look really small, but when you walk inside, it's like a whole house with unending rooms. There's all sorts of important people there. There's different like former players. Then you also are introduced to the fact that there are other schools as well within this wizarding world, Beauxbaton and Durmstrang. Yeah. But bad things happen at the Quidditch World Cup.
It gets attacked by terrorists.
Yeah, the terrorists who are known as the Death Eaters. They shoot
evil McMustache twirl, you mean?
They shoot swastikas, I mean giant signs in the sky.
All right, the Dark Mark is pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's just like a skull with an Ouroboros, which is it's a pretty lit thing for villains to shoot into the sky as a like terrorist.
Yes. And Barty Crouch, who we should probably mention. He's the Minister of Magic, right?
No.
What?
Nope.
Who is Barty Crouch?
Just like some bureaucrat. He's like a chief judge or something. He's a part of the like justice system in the ministry. He's not the minister though. The minister is that other guy.
Cornelius Fudge?
Yeah. Chocolate Man.
Yeah, I can never remember that dude's name. Well, I can remember his name, just not that he just doesn't sound like he would be the leader, but anyway. His house elf, his slave elf thing is found under the Dark Mark. So
and nobody is killed, which is weird because there's like the place gets attacked, but nobody's sure why nobody died.
Right, because typically the Dark Mark is shown after they have
a murder has been committed.
Terrorized somebody.
Well, that's specifically how they did it, because the Dark Mark was made by Voldemort like 20 years ago during his reign of terror or whatever. And so whenever they would murder a wizard or somebody, they would shoot that in the sky to cause more terror. Which, 2 thumbs up for effective terrorism.
Yeah.
They also have tattoos of the terrorism on their arm to prove that they're all terrorists. It's all connected. They are kind of Nazis.
Yeah. So the Quidditch World Cup happens at the beginning, and then when they get to school, there's a new tournament, and it's the Triwizard Cup, and that's between the 3 different schools. So I mentioned Beauxbaton and Durmstrang arrive, and they're 2 other schools basically. So the schools are going to face off against each other, and Is it the Sorting Hat that selects them, or how?
No, the Goblet of Fire, the name of the book.
Right, the Goblet of Fire selects the three contestants, but then whoop de whoop whoop, Harry's name is also in there, so
Why wouldn't his name be in there?
he cheated. They
Yeah,
think he cheated.
only upperclassmen are allowed to put their name in, which they describe in the book because Harry or
He's an underage
George
cheater.
and the other one, Fred, put their names in the cup, but they get beat up because there's magic that stops underage kids from putting their name in.
Yes, and Cedric Diggory is supposed to be the champion for Hogwarts.
Batman.
Yes. Yes. Anyway, yeah, then you're introduced to the next iteration of the Defense Against the Dark Arts teachers, Mad Eye Moody, who is a great character. He has two eyes. One of them is magical and can see through things. Yeah, creepy,
He's a
but
grizzled wizard
effective.
cop.
Yeah.
He's literally described as like you're a loose cannon, but you get results.
Yes.
So that's who Dumbledore's like. He should be the one teaching the kids with guns. We need another. Those last three didn't work out, but we need a loose cannon to do it.
And like somehow I believe they like briefly mentioned that there was some article in a newspaper about him like either being assaulted or assaulting someone over the summer. Like he fought someone off, right?
It was him attacking someone. Yeah.
Yeah. So Dumbledore's like, "Oh, we should get him here." Yeah. There are a number of tasks that they have to overcome. I don't really want to go into all of those details. One of them involves a dragon, and Harry flies past it.
Yeah, they just include increasingly dangerous tasks for the students to not get killed by.
He almost drowns in a lake, and there are things in the lake.
Monsters and mermen and all kinds of crazy shit.
Here's where one of Nolan's favorite characters, Cho Chang, or as you like to name her,
Ching Chong.
Yeah, Ching Chong, which could have
Fundamentally, there's no difference between naming an Asian character Cho Chang and Ching Chong. Either way, it's just brutal.
Right. To be clear, you're not saying her name is Ching Chong because you're racist. You're saying Ching Chong because what's her face is JK.
Yes.
JK.
Absolutely.
JK.
It's maybe like the most brutal pandering I've ever seen a racist author attempt to do to add some diversity to her books.
Yep. Yeah. There's jealousy that happens because skipped.
There's 200 pages of bad romance in this book, which have nothing to do with the plot.
Yeah.
This book's like 600 pages, 650 or something.
The final task involves a maze that they are going through, and the maze is filled with blast-ended scroots.
There's all kinds of cool shit in the book. Yeah. There's like
bad
a Sphinx.
things in the maze. Yeah. And so Harry and Cedric basically make it to the center at the same time, I believe. I don't remember if they agree to touch it at the same time, but
they do.
Okay. And
they become friends throughout the book.
The thing that they grab is a port key, which is something in this world that like you can magic the object, so when you touch it, it transports you to an assigned location. So when they touch it, Harry's scar is burning really badly, and when they're transported, Cedric is just immediately murdered. Yeah. Then I believe it's Wormtail. I almost said Wormtongue. Tries to
Corbin wants you
use
to find the difference between these two pictures.
tries to use Harry's blood to
It's the same picture.
tries to get Voldemort back to his physical body. Voldemort gets a bunch of Death Eaters there to try to kill Harry. They're fighting. They're like wand streams or like hitting one another. Yeah.
Yeah, that
Harry's ghosts show up of his parents, and their love fights off the bad man. Yeah, the love of his mother and father still saves him.
it's very different in the books than it is in the movie. In the books, they actually explain it all, that like the ghosts show up because they're people that Voldemort killed, and they like distract Voldemort so he's able to escape. In the movie, it's just colors are special, so look at the colors. Oh, look, ghosts.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. So, then it seems like the story's over. Hooray! They defeated the bad man. So Harry's at Hogwarts.
No bad man is defeated in this book.
Voldemort. It seems like he survived. Survived. Sorry, survived the bad man. Anyway, he goes back to Hogwarts, and the defense against the dark arts teacher, Moody, is like, "Hey, you should come to my office." So he goes there, and then he's actually just a Death Eater. He's Barty Crouch Jr., who basically was taking this polyjuice potion, which happened earlier in the story. Chekhov's gun. They used polyjuice potion to turn into Crabbe and Goyle, or maybe that was
in the second book.
Whatever, still Chekhov's gun.
And no, the port key is Chekhov's gun.
Oh my god.
They use the port key at the beginning.
Barty Crouch Jr. is bad and tries to kill Harry. But then Dumbledore, McGonagall, and Snape come in and they save him.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And then he has to go. Barty Crouch Jr. then goes to Azkaban.
Yep, and here's in the hospital again, and they dump a bunch of dumb exposition on him that's like, here's how the bad guy did what he did.
Mm-hmm. I don't think that there is a Gryffindor victory here, only because, like...
Well, Harry Potter won
the Hogwarts
won. Triwizard Cup, so it didn't...
The Hogwarts school won. So.
Yeah, so Gryffindor won, basically.
Therefore, Gryffindor won, because Harry is Gryffindor. Cool.
All right, we gotta pick up the pace here. I'm fading.
Same.
We got to get into some analysis of these. There's lots to say about some of the more interesting or bad themes in these books, but
dear.
Book 5's easy. It's the longest, but I could summarize it quickly. It's
please do so.
800 pages, but we can get through it. Basically, no one believes that Voldemort has returned, and so the main conflict of the book is that most of the wizards think Harry and Dumbledore are liars. And so Dumbledore comes under scrutiny, and the Ministry of Magic puts a bureaucrat installs one into the school as the defense against the dark arts teacher, and she slowly takes over the school from the inside, delegitimizing Dumbledore and firing other teachers like Trelawney. Dumbledore eventually is removed from being the headmaster of the school because Harry creates a mini cult in the school called Dumbledore's Army, where he teaches other students how to protect themselves and fight. So then this evil lady, Dolores Umbridge, who just tortures the students literally is a torturer and a bad person.
Yeah, we don't need to explain how she does it.
Not important. She takes over the school completely. Harry, the whole book, is having visions of some weird place within the Ministry of Magic, and it's implied that there's some hidden prophecy there. And so Harry is trying to learn how to defend his mind from visions from Snape, but it doesn't go well because they hate each other. Eventually, Harry gets visions of Sirius being tortured in the Ministry of Magic, and so he and his friends are forced to come up with a scheme to leave the school grounds, which involves a bunch of convolution. They end up in the Forbidden Forest, where Hagrid's half-brother Giant attacks a bunch of centaurs and Dolores Umbridge. It all ends with Harry and his friends getting on these invisible winged monsters called like Thestrals, which
Yes.
you can only see if you've watched someone die. And so he and a bunch of his friends, some of whom we literally haven't mentioned yet, like Neville Longbottom or Luna Lovegood,
I think they're kestrels, but whatever.
we better go back to the beginning. They go, they fly to the Ministry of Magic, and then they find out that the visions weren't real. There's a whole bunch of cool magic stuff there. But then the evil Death Eater cultists show up, and there's like 100 pages of fighting through these weird rooms, and then Sirius Black gets assassinated. Voldemort shows up at the Ministry, and then Dumbledore shows up, who's just been hiding all along. We'll get to Dumbledore as a bad character later. Dumbledore and Voldemort have a big cool fight. And then the book ends with Harry basically in the hospital again because he got hurt, and Voldemort uh, is seen by Chocolate Man, Cornelius Fudge, the leader of the Ministry, who is then forced to admit to the Wizarding world that Voldemort has returned, which changes everyone's mind, and everyone's like, "Oh, sorry, Harry, we didn't realize that you were right all along." Um, Dumbledore once again drops a bunch of exposition on Harry that they could have given him in the very first book, which basically says that Harry has to stay with his aunt and uncle because of some obscure love magic
Love.
relationship, but very obscure, not even really there, between Harry's aunt and Harry's mom, which makes no sense. All right, moving on. So Sirius is dead. That's the only main thing from the fifth book is Sirius died.
Sirius passes through a magical veil which steals him to the dead land.
Right. So
that his death is pretty cool, honestly. But
the book is great, but it's 800 pages, and we can't get bogged down in Ching Chong's love triangle again. And
holy shit, Bellatrix Lestrange is the one that kills him.
We can't get bogged down in that,
Slughorn, Slugfest, Welcome Feast.
Yeah, so they make Snape the Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher, and then
finally the moment we've been waiting for.
Yeah, because Snape always wanted it, but Dumbledore wouldn't give it to him for literally no reason. We find out later it's because of some like 8D chess move that Dumbledore was making.
It's because Dumbledore's gay. That's why he didn't give it to Snape.
Probably. There's a bunch of stuff in this. How to summarize it? Basically, Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince is kind of like the other books where there's a mystery, and the mystery is who's the Half-Blood Prince, which is some guy that used to own a potions book that Harry owns. Most of the book is concerned with Harry trying to get a secret out of Slughorn, who is a professor they recruit to be the potions master, who had retired some years ago.
His animagus form is a chair.
Oh. Truly a deep cut. They dump once they find out the secret, and the secret Slughorn's been hiding is that Slughorn told Voldemort as a little kid how to split his soul into pieces and become immortal. Which is a whole bunch of stupid exposition gobbledygook, which ends up setting up the next book, which is that whenever you murder someone, you can split your soul and put half of your or part of your soul into an object, which then keeps you immortal or something. And so it turns out that Voldemort has done this a bunch of times, which is why he keeps coming back, even though he's been defeated repeatedly. And so Dumbledore, it turns out, for years has been trying to figure this out to defeat Dumbledore and just didn't tell anybody.
You mean Voldemort? But yeah, Dumbledore is not trying to defeat Dumbledore. He's trying to defeat Voldemort. Yeah.
did mean Voldemort, but I was accidentally correct because ultimately Dumbledore defeats himself. He kidnaps himself and gets murdered at the end of the book by Snape because Snape, it turns out, made some promise at the beginning of the book with Draco Malfoy's mom that he would protect Draco because Draco needed to kill Dumbledore. It's all convoluted. It turns out Snape is the Half-Blood Prince all along, and he's like, "You're stupid, Wizard Harry."
But also, he like is kind of somehow saving Dumbledore by killing him as well.
Well, we don't know that until the next book, but yeah.
Whatever.
Right. So, the Horcrux, really all that's important about this book for the overarching plot is there are Horcruxes, which are the bits of your soul split apart. And we learn that Dumbledore has already destroyed 2 of them, which were some ring that Voldemort had years ago and the book from the second book, the diary.
Yeah, and at a certain point, his like hand is all shriveled and fucked up in this book because he like destroyed the ring because he had to like sacrifice his hand in some way to destroy it.
He was just dumb. That's the canonical explanation, is that he was impatient and dumb. And instead of just like using Gryffindor's sword to cut the ring in half, he tried to do some magic and it cursed him.
Hasty.
Right, so he got hasty. All right, you ready for book 7? You have
Thank
anything
God.
else to add for the plot of book 6?
Not especially. Luna
All right,
Lovegood is a character, and that's it. You said the Horcrux word, so yeah.
All right, so then book 7, Harry decides not to go back to school because he and his friends need to find the remaining 5 MacGuffins. This is where the books like really go off the rails. This is the last book.
No more school.
Yeah, we'll get to that, I think, in the analysis, that I have a bit of disdain for the way that the story just goes completely crazy by this book.
No school till Brooklyn.
Yeah, Harry Potter and the MacGuffin chase. So he, Hermione, and Ron decide to just go off into the woods and search for a bunch of MacGuffins. They eventually hunt them all down through a bunch of somewhat interesting adventures and destroy them all. And it ends with a gigantic fight at the end in Hogwarts where all the characters from every book come back. We got everybody. And all the good guys and bad guys are shooting the guns at each other. And all the bad guys get killed one by one. And then at the end,
Nolan does mean wands, to be clear. And
yeah, I established that.
If it seems like we're becoming more cynical as this goes along, it's just because of the convoluted nature of the stories.
Yes.
The nostalgic and like Bildungsroman starts to like really teeter on a precipice towards, I would say, the 5th book.
I like books 2 through 6. I think they're all great books with different elements that work really well.
When you say that they literally just go to the woods to find MacGuffins, that is actually just what happens. Like, to be clear, like Nolan is not just glossing over and being hypercritical.
I did skip like a lot of interesting characters and plots from books 5 and 6. Not true in book 7. Yeah, so in book 7 they find a locket, like a necklace with a Voldemort soul in it. They destroy that. They find a cup with Voldemort's soul in it. They destroy that. It turns out the snake that's been following Voldemort around has a soul in it. Neville kills that at the end. It turns out Harry is a MacGuffin, and so Harry
the way
lets
you said that, Harry. One would never know. It's just Harry's soul.
Part of Voldemort's soul is in Harry's forehead, and
they gotta kill him.
Oh, there's also a hat. At some point, there's a hat that's a MacGuffin, and they light a magic room on. What? No, not the Sorting Hat. It's Ravenclaw's diadem.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, that's right.
So the part that makes these MacGuffins so frustrating is they're not built up through the other books. Like it's
Yeah.
just like
Yeah.
all these famous witches and wizards that have the world named after them have these objects, and these objects are stuff that Voldemort's hunted down through his whole life and filled with his magic soul to become immortal.
Hmm.
It's very contrived. The only one that's interesting is the snake, but they never explain what that is or why it happened, so it becomes a lot less interesting.
Nagini?
Yes. It's interesting because it's a living thing with part of Voldemort's soul in it. So that was somewhere that where they could have explored stuff with like Animagi and getting
Right,
bogged down in details again here. We gotta
right, like they could have asserted something that would lend you to try to connect the dots, the potential dots, but not like directly outline it. Yeah, anyway, um they get in the fight.
Yeah, Harry is killed by Voldemort and goes to heaven or purgatory, and he meets Dumbledore there, and Dumbledore is like, "You can choose to go on to heaven now if you want, or you can go back and fight Voldemort." And Harry's like, "I'll go back and fight Voldemort." So there's a
Obviously.
big final fight, and basically a bunch of characters we've grown to love die off screen. Um, and then Harry kills Voldemort on a technicality, like he in Dungeons and Dragons, there's a concept called a rules lawyer, which is someone who slows the pace of the game down to explain the rules in a way where they can be stronger or something very dumb that breaks the immersion of the world building. And so the way that the whole story of Harry Potter ends is Harry Potter rules lawyers Voldemort into a technicality that he owned Voldemort's wand, so his magic works better than him. And so Voldemort dies
Yeah,
finally.
because he was the last person to defeat him or something.
Oh, it's much, much, much worse than that. It's that Harry owned the wand because Harry was the wand. So there's a big good wand, and the wand was owned by Draco Malfoy, who disarmed Dumbledore, but then Harry disarmed Draco. So Harry owned Draco's wand, and Draco's wand was given to Voldemort.
Yeah. Loyalty. The loyalty of the wand is transferred.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about the Deathly Hallows because they're not important.
So Voldemort essentially uh kills himself while trying to kill Harry because the spell rebounds. Yeah.
Yep. So then Harry, yeah, he repairs his old wand, and then I forget if he snaps the magic with the super powerful gun in half or
I
not,
think he
but
does.
and then he like throws, yeah, that's and then there's
He
an
throws
epilogue where
the special stone in the forest.
yeah, there's a rock which can resurrect people you love as ghosts, which is somehow a bad thing. Like the book is like you would never want to do that, but there's never an explanation for why that's a bad thing. I guess because being stuck in the past, like you're supposed to move on, I guess is the point. I
We'll
never
get
really understood.
we'll get to the analysis.
There's an epilogue at the end where everybody lives happily ever after, including war criminal Draco Malfoy, and there's a nice shared moment where Harry's like, "You're a good man, Draco," and that's Harry Potter as a whole. We
You
I,
didn't
we
want to
had
talk about all the fun names that they name their kids?
Oh, everybody has kids, and all the kids are named after dead characters. And Harry, like in the book, Harry looks up at the audience and goes like, "I named my kid after these characters because they were heroic." Because there's
And
a
then
whole
everyone stands and claps.
yes, there's a whole big plot where it turns out that Snape loved Harry all along because Snape loved Harry's mom all along. And so Snape, even though he bullies Harry relentlessly because Snape only sees Harry's father in Harry physically, emotionally, Snape loves Harry because he loved the mom. So
That is arguably like the most important relationship of the story, but yeah. Or like
correct.
most important to to the plot, I would
Well,
say.
it makes Snape the most interesting character because he's the most complex, because he does
Yes.
kill Dumbledore, who is a fan favorite, which I do not understand, but we'll get to that. I think we've wrapped these up very quickly at the very least, but if someone has not read the books, they will now have an understanding of the full story, which is that Harry Potter is a wizard who is whose main journey before he's 17 is to kill the great Lord Voldemort. And then he does.
That's why I said Harry is a real boy.
Pinocchio. He becomes a real boy at the end.
Let's take a break and then we will do the real episode.
The analysis, the discussion, because I am champing at the bit to get into this for both the good and the bad. So tune in. Yeah, I'm ready.
Bye-bye.